And welcome back to the Lantern Corps video. We are still on the subject of the Avatar characters. We're on the last two for the Avatar characters in terms of the ones I'm going to go over, unless more are requested. We're on Azula, the sister of Zuko, and one of the primary antagonists throughout the remainder of the series past the first season. And Azula there is a cavalcade of emotions. Being said, is there an emotion that allows her to qualify specifically for one of the Lantern Corps? I subscribe to the theory that there very much is one. So, let's go over. As always, with this series, I basically go into explaining which corps I think, when I say corps, it's corps, which corps do I think they belong in more than any other corps. And as I always do, I lump it into three categories. The Nope Lantern Corps, the Nope Corps, the unlikely or possible Corps, and then the most likely Yes Corps. So if you're a Nope, that means you cannot qualify for it. Unlikely to possible means there's a chance you could qualify for it, but it's unlikely. And then the Yes Corps are basically, that's probably the corp you belong in. So, starting right off the bat, I always go with the Nope Corps, get them out of the way. The Black Lanterns. She's not dead. And by the way, we're looking at Azula at the end of Book 3, Season 3, the final season of the original series. Anything beyond that is we're not counting in this. But she can't, obviously, the requirement to be a Black Lantern is you either have to die, or be dead, have died, and there is technically a third category where if you are such the embodiment of death, you in theory could qualify for it. Fortunately, Azula doesn't qualify for any of those. She obviously has never died. She is not dead by the end of Book 3. And while she definitely didn't care, she didn't mind killing individuals. She didn't revel in it either. It wasn't something she wanted. It didn't get her kicks off just to go out and kill people. She really only did it as a means to an end if she had to. She did take satisfaction in it to some extent, but it wasn't anything that would qualify her for the Corps. So I can't qualify her for that. Surprisingly, White Lantern Corps is also quite a no category for it. Now, generally speaking, to qualify for the White Lantern Corps of life, you just really need to be alive. Now, anything beyond that is embracing life, cultivating and protecting life. For instance, anyone who has ever been a mother, like the characters I've gone over, would actually be better qualified for being a White Lantern than your average person because they've given birth. They've given birth to new life. Likewise, if you protect the world or protect life, things along those lines, you would be a good candidate for the Lantern Corps of Life. But Azula never really gave two squirts of piss about that. She was all she cared about was helping her father advance the Fire Nation's power, which resulted in the deaths of others. And she knew that was happening, and she still let it happen. So I can't qualify her for life, honestly. This is affirmed despite the fact she's alive, and no. Likewise, she cannot be qualified for love. Now, here's the thing. By the end of it, I think we can tell by that little psychological conversation she has with her mom in her head, there is something in there in terms of her love for her family, her mother, maybe a little bit for Zuko, but it's just so buried under the weight of responsibility, the pressure that was put on her, her own just nastiness that she generally inherited from her father, that it's just she does not have any active love. And we also saw in Book 2 how she was able to at least form some physically romantic connections to individuals. So it's not that she probably isn't completely incapable of love, whatever form that love may take. It's just the fact that she's got so much other crap going on with her that even if she could really experience it, she wouldn't be able to embrace it. So love is right out as well. Now this one might come as a bit that's a weird sentence to be saying. Might come as a bit of a surprise to people. But I don't think she can qualify for Orange either. Now, you might argue that she's always been power hungry, ambitious, all that, driven. But here's the thing. You can be ambitious without having avarice, without being greedy. You can be those things. You can have an ambition and not want much else beyond what you get with the ambition, and then be completely satisfied with that, what you get at the end. And that is, when you really look at it, what happened with Azula to many regards. She didn't actually crave more power. She already knew how powerful she was. So she didn't necessarily strive for more power. She ended up gaining more power and flaunted that power, but it was nothing that she was actually craving per se. Really, you might argue this, but really look at Azula if you get a chance to watch it again. Do we get the idea she was vying for the position of Fire Lord and all that? Like, it's like, yes, I want more and more and more, so eventually I become the Fire Lord. You rarely watch it. Do you think that she's devastated her dad doesn't take her with her in the final and the Day of Black Sun four-parter? She's devastated by that. But then he tells her, I'm making you the new Fire Lord. Really? Oh, well, I mean, yes. Now, that being said, she felt she was deserving of things. She felt she was entitled to things just because of her bloodline, her heritage, the fact she was the princess. But that's because she always got spoiled and she always got what she wanted. So she was never really wanting for much except, father's approval and all that. So I can't frankly say that I could qualify her for. And then when she got it, she was sad. I mean, she was breaking down mentally, but that had nothing to do with avarice or greed. So I can't say she would qualify for avarice. I don't think she qualifies as an Orange Lantern. Likewise, I also don't think she qualifies as a Blue Lantern because she had plenty of confidence in herself and her own abilities. But confidence doesn't translate to hope, and hope doesn't translate to confidence necessarily. Or technically it can. Continuing to have hope I would guess mean continuing to mean you have confidence in yourself and what you're capable of and everything along those lines. So I guess it's more like rectangles and squares. One is the other, but the other is not the one is the other, but the other one is not the other one, if that sentence made sense. The rectangles and squares. You know what I'm talking about. It's math, damn it. We learned it in elementary school. The rectangles and squares. One is the same, one is the not. Again, that sentence made sense. Anyway, I digress. So, but look, she never held out hope she would become the Fire Lord or anything like that, as far as we can tell. She never instilled hope in others. She instilled, we'll get down later on. She more or less instilled fear in others more than anything else. So, she didn't give or create any hope for anyone else. She never really held on to any certain type of hope, specific type of hope, simply because she didn't need to. She already knew how good she was, what her position was. So she didn't really need to hold out hope for anything. Zuko was a better candidate for hope. Much better candidate comparatively. And I'm not going to say if I gave it to him or not, but I'm just saying he's a much better candidate comparing the two. So I can't give her hope either. Now, that ends all the Nope cores, the cores that she can't qualify for. Moving on to the one possible corp, and this is the weird one. It's the only possible. The other three she could very much qualify for, and we'll get to that, is the Lantern Corps of Will, the Green Lanterns. Now, the way you qualify for the Green Lanterns is the big one is you have to be able to overcome great fear. It even says so right there. You have the ability to overcome great fear. Welcome to the Green Lantern Corps. That's the big one, but you also have to have an extremely strong willpower, hence the ability to overcome fear. So, to combine those two, here's the thing. She has a lot of willpower. She does. To be able to harness lightning at such a young age, being a prodigy, being as confident as she is, and have the will to just face the Avatar multiple times without flinching, that takes a lot of courage and will. But the problem here is the fact that, she's got one of those qualities down. First off, let's assume she could qualify. She could not hold on to a Green Lantern ring because there's a strict no killing policy among the Green Lanterns. Unless, absolutely necessary. You can't otherwise. But point being is that when we finally got to her in season 3, and season 2, no, she was like the big bad. Nothing scared her at all. Season 3 is where we saw not only the chinks in the armor, but the facade break. Especially near the very couple of last episodes, is that we saw that once people really started to stand up to her, once May stood up to her and, basically it says nope, you miscalculated. No, I'm not afraid of you anymore. I'm not afraid of you. So, yeah, and you saw her. It's like, you should have feared more. She was about to attack her friend. And the fact that these people, these girls who she called her friends all the time, just basically turned on her, like, really shook her. The fact that people were not afraid of her anymore shook her to her core. The fact that all this responsibility really was raveling, her sanity was just losing. She was going nuts. The fact that Zuko could fight on equal footing with her at the end, she just couldn't take it. And then we see finally when Katara basically eventually beats her, she's just breaking down in tears and everything everything along those lines. So I can't in good conscience say she could. Maybe like season 2, Azula could qualify for a Green Lantern ring. Maybe, but by the end of season 3, there's no way she could qualify for it. So that's why it's in the possible, unlikely, but maybe categories, because ultimately she can't really qualify for it, though she could have at one point. And even if she could, there's 3 other categories she fits far better into. So right off the bat, the Red Lantern Corps of Rage, you have great rage in your heart. Here's the thing. Season 2 Azula, not really. Remember, we're looking at the end of the series, Azula. Not really. She's calm, cool, collecting evil, but she's not rage-fueled. But by the time you get to the end of season 3, particularly when you start getting to the Boiling Rock, it's once you get to the Boiling Rock and beyond, that's where you start to see the real head case that is Azula in there. And what it really is. And she's just completely maniacally, happily enraged and all that. Clearly, rage could definitely fit her at that point in time. However, there's another option. The Indigo Lantern Corps. You have the ability to either feel great compassion, or you need to basically be compassionless. And basically, Azula, as far as we could tell, did not have a huge amount of... Now, Azula was not completely... Here's a weird thing. Despite how sociopathic she is, she was not without some level of compassion. Oddly enough, we see a lot more of it in season 3, where she's especially at that like party they go to on the beach, where she's talking with Ty Lee and they're having that conversation. And you can actually see the humanity in there a little bit with her. She's not a 100% terrible person. I think A, it is genetics on her father's side because her father's a piece of work. The Fire Lord is definitely a piece of work. But B, I think it's also nature versus nurture. The environment you were raised in can shape you, and it molded her into that horrible person. But I'll go past that, and when you finally get to near the end of the series, she's completely lost it. Whether or not there's compassion in there is up for debate. I would argue there probably is still something in there, because because she's already deranged. She gives Zuko a very bad injury with lightning, but she doesn't go to finish him off. She instead goes after Katara instead. So I have to believe, I don't know if she would have honestly gone off and killed him had Katara not been there. Honestly, if Katara had not been there, Zuko would have legitimately won that fight. Let's be honest. The way that fight was playing out, Zuko would have honestly beaten her in that fight. But I think it's very possible she could qualify just because of how generally remorseless she is. But it's a tough one. Of the 3, I think this is the least likely of the 3 big ones I have left. But I think it's still a very possible scenario that could happen. Wouldn't that be weird, her mellowing out with the Indigo Lantern to compassion? So Red, but honestly, I have to go, when all is said and done, with Fear. Because frankly, that was always a thing with Azula, is that not only did she inspire fear, Azula... Well, perfect example is when Iroh and Zuko were on the run in season 2. They say, well, we can either go to the Earth Kingdom and, face judgment there, possibly be killed, or we could deal with Azula. Earth Kingdom it is. It's like, no one wanted to... She did. Every time she showed up, there was an air of, you don't want to mess with this, but this person's not right. It's like, no. And it showed. Most of the time, Aang was afraid of her, though Aang quickly, quickly got over his fear and knew he had to fight her. Zuko, for what it's worth, would still go toe to toe with her, but that didn't mean he wasn't afraid of her. I still think he was afraid of her. Even by the end of the series, he was afraid of her. And quite frankly, it warrants it. She was a prodigy. She was deadly on the battlefield. They also said, Mai made a great example. It's like, I love Zuko more than I fear you. And it's clear. And that was another way. That's how she got Ty Lee into the whole shtick, is the fact that, or a whole, game, is the fact that she was able to basically instill, a level of fear. It's like, this is what Azula is doing to you now because you decided not to immediately join her. So, yeah, Azula, anytime Azula was around, she immediately scared the crap out of people. And that didn't change even leading up to the end of the series. She was always depicted as someone who was extremely scary. And I think I think it's cemented best with just how everyone else viewed her. Look at how anyone else viewed her or interacted with her. Even if they were facing her and being brave or wasn't showing it, they initially knew not to mess with Azula if they could avoid it. And ultimately, I think it's kind of comes down to it's got to be the Yellow Lantern ring. Yellow Lantern was definitely the core for her. And she, trust me, they'd welcome her with open arms. She would be a great member of the Lantern Corps of Fear. The Quiard power ring, if you will. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. That's my thoughts on Azula in this case. Last but not least, we'll be going over Iroh in the final episode of the Avatar series in this version. This series. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Ideas for who would win, Star Wars, Sabira, Magic, What If. Anything I do in the channel, put that in the comments below as well. I'll get to that at some point. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll be back with who would win in a little while. Later, folks.